What's up, everybody? Randy and Danny here with the Existential Stoic podcast. Quick fix episode 9. How to think big.
Nice. Thinking big.
Better than thinking small.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're done with those small thinkers. Let's think big. So today, in this short little episode, less than 10 minutes, we're going to talk about a few different techniques to help think big. But before we do, why would somebody want to think big?
Well, I think thinking big is crucial, right? Because if we think big, we're always guaranteed some successes, right? Why think small when you could go beyond that? I think we limit ourselves by thinking small. We always do.
Definitely. There's this book that I read pretty much every morning. I just read it over and over again, called The Magic of Thinking Big. So I think this is a very salient topic for me. And he talks about, the first chapter of the book, he talks about how there was just a sales conference and they were taking a look at this guy who had 10 times more sales than everybody else. And they said, what's special about him? Is he smarter than you guys? No. Is he more talented than you guys? No. Does he work more than you guys? No. He actually works less. What's the thing? He thinks big.
Yeah.
And that's what enables him to achieve big.
Well, you know what it is? I think when you think big, too, you believe in yourself to achieve big. You believe that you will get those ends and it makes it work.
Definitely. So, in that vein, we're going to talk about, we each have 3 things that help with thinking big. So, because I'm introducing, I'm going to go first.
All right.
And the first one that I have when thinking big is to consider what's possible. What would you do if anything were achievable? If success was guaranteed and you could do anything, what would you then do?
You know, I like that one a lot because I think we limit ourselves so much in our thinking by believing that things are impossible, that it's out of our reach, that, you know, we don't have the skill set. Because the fact is all of that is achievable. You just need to think that it is possible.
We're totally limited by our own beliefs. Like they say that, you know, with job application websites, they receive hundreds of times more applications for like entry-level jobs, low-paying jobs, than for the high-paying jobs. And mostly it's just because people think, oh, I don't have the qualifications for a manager. I don't have this.
Yeah, and they're unwilling to take a chance on themselves.
Yeah, why not just apply? What's the problem with that?
It doesn't hurt anybody, right?
Exactly.
You can always do it and always try.
Yeah, so I like thinking what's possible. If anything was possible, what would I do?
And plan for that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, so my first one is, look, recognizing that every big success, no matter what it is a culmination of small victories, small little progresses over time. So it makes sense to think big when you think that way, because if you plan for big success, you can break it down and make it happen. But if you plan for small success, that will also happen. I think, thinking big makes more sense because you can just break it down and make it happen anyway. It doesn't have to be overwhelming when you think of it that way.
Yeah, it's almost like the saying, shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Exactly.
You just do small success, and they build upon each other, and they even snowball.
Yeah.
Like the small successes pick up steam, and then you can really accomplish stuff. So I like, for my second one, I have to consider whatever direction you're going. Think about, if you were the greatest person in that specific area, what would you do? Like, for instance, with me right now, I focus a lot on computer programming. So I like to think, if I were the greatest programmer in the world, what would I do? Because that opens up your mind. Because you think, a lot of people want to be rich. And they're like, well, so start thinking, if I was Elon Musk, if I was Warren Buffett, if I was Bill Gates, or somebody else along those lines, what would I do? Because guaranteed, they're going to be thinking and doing things differently than what you're doing in whatever paltry situation you may find yourself stuck in.
I like that too, and it works really well with my second one. So I'm going to read it now, which is, I think we limit ourselves by our perspective. And I think, to get a new perspective, reading, thinking about others helps a lot because it helps us think beyond ourselves and our current situation. And that is the problem. You're right. When we think small, we are trapped in a way of thinking that's really confined by the circumstances we find ourselves in. And in order to get out of that, you have to think big, because you're not going to break out of your norm by thinking within that norm, that possibility exists in that norm, or that, all you can see as success is within that sort of framework, right? You have to go beyond it in order to think big and to really get out of it.
Yeah.
If you want to move on to something else.
That's definitely key. So the next one I have is, once you've figured out what's possible if you couldn't fail, and once you've figured out, if you were the greatest person in the world, what would you do? Next, think, what's 10 times that? And aim for that. Because that is literally thinking big. Like, that's thinking far outside of what you think is even possible. 10 times that, that's what you're aiming for.
I really like that one too, because it's true, right? when we're thinking, we often come up with conclusions or ideas about what we want to be, and we need to go beyond that even. Because the fact is look, everything that you think of, everything that you dream of, you're going to get it and then surpass it. So try and think of what it looks like to surpass it now, and then you plan for that and even more, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the issue. I think a lot of us forget that all the goals in our lives that we've achieved, we get them and then we have to move beyond it and do something else, right? We have to think of, well, what next? What now? And if we can plan that out ahead of time, we are really thinking big, because we're thinking way beyond that immediate success. We're thinking of long term, right? We're thinking way down the road.
Definitely.
I like that one. So for my last one, I have, I think this is also helpful, is to think of 3 people you admire, especially in the area in which you're kind of thinking about, whether it's like life planning or success for a certain type of skill or whatever. Think about 3 people you admire and model. Use them as a basis for making decisions. And this goes back to what you were saying, right? Imagine what would they do, or how would they approach this if I were them, right? If I had all of that, how would I think about it? And that helps you think beyond, again, your circumstances,
Dude,
outside of yourself.
I love that one so much, because that's something I use on a regular basis. Is I have my own like mastermind of people who, like, whenever I face with a challenging decision, I always think, what would this person do? What would this person do? What would this person do? And oftentimes it's against what I want to do because it's painful in the short term. But like, I know that they are much bigger people than where I am presently, and I want to be among their ranks. So I know that in order to do what they do, I need to push myself outside of my comfort.
I like that too, because you're right. It's about, all of our small thinking, I think, what we've hit on here is it's confined thinking. It's thinking with inside of boundaries that we've self-imposed. And really thinking big is about breaking down those boundaries. It's going beyond ourselves. And a lot of times the best way to get there is just imagine yourself outside of them, because they don't exist.
Yeah.
And then, and then you can think way beyond it.
Yeah, right?
It helps.
Yeah, they're all self-imposed boundaries we put on ourselves.
They are. It's insane, right?
Yeah.
And so if we break those boundaries down, and if you need these tools, use them, because they help, right? Thinking of other people that are already successful, thinking 10 times what you're thinking. I think that's a great way to get beyond it.
Definitely. So that was another quick fix episode number 9. That was today.
Wow,
for
9.
the Existential Stoic podcast. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you do enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe and share it with friends and family, or anyone you think who could find it helpful. And we will see you in the next full-length episode next week.
Next week, yeah.
All right, later, Danny.
Later, Randy.